Happy New Year and welcome back to the Wolff Den, our first show of 2023. Wolff Den is sponsored by Win Again Academy. Check out the networking events that they have tomorrow night, another great one, 7 p.m. You can check out my site or their site, Win Again Academy. I'm Matt Wolff, founder and CEO of Ticket Time Machine. Today we have Jeff Morander on the show. Welcome to the Wolff Den.
Thank you very much, Matt. Happy New Year.
Yeah, great to chat with you. We talked not too long ago in person, and we'll talk a little bit about that and how it all came to be. But for the people in the audience who don't know who you are, give us a quick intro, and then let's get to it.
Sure. After a 35-year career in professional sports, I decided to pivot at the end of the pandemic and had an opportunity to become part owner and CEO of the Association of Luxury Suite Directors. So I jumped at that chance, gave me an opportunity to stay here in Scottsdale, Arizona, and work remotely and interface with the ALSD staff across the world. But one that I was very familiar with. I've gone to 14 or 15 conferences in the past. I've known Bill Dorsey, the founder, for many, many years, and the same with Amanda Verhoff, our president. So it was a natural to make the transition, and having looked back in the last 8 months, it's been a blur, actually.
This is going to be the most important question you ever answer all year.
Okay.
Why do people hate the word pivot?
I'm not sure. For me, it was a true hard pivot with leaving sports behind. I know a lot of people struggle with that decision, but for me, it was time. I guess that's the best way I can explain it. But
and you're still in the sports world. The sports world is a huge part of what ALSD does, and we'll talk about that. But it is a big difference. I've never done it, but people who go from the team side to, say, the agency side to, say, a third party side, right? I mean, there's a big difference in the way that you have to think and do.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. And for me, I haven't changed who I am. I still grind and still get after it with the same passion. But for the first time in my entire career at the end of the pandemic, I just started to feel like it was a job, and I had never experienced that before. And so I was like, I think it's time for a change. And again, high priority for me with my family was to stay here in Scottsdale. But to your point, I'm on the periphery of the sports business, and I interact with 90% of the teams being members of ALSD and being involved and being able to see familiar faces at the conference is awesome, right? Because you still get a taste and you still have those relationships, but you don't have that day-to-day grind of the schedule and having 3 games in 1 week or 4 games in 1 week. So I don't miss that.
No, I've talked to a lot of people who've changed and they don't, but it's a very popular position. Like, people don't leave those jobs often. So it's like, there's a lot of people who are good with it. And then I guess after a while, it weighs on you, especially the travel, right? If you're traveling with it, you have family, kids. I have friends they just get burned out by that. It seems like a no-brainer, but how important and how useful is your experience to what you're doing?
Well, I've walked in the shoes of the people that are our members, right? And so I can relate to what they're going through. And I can also share, over the years, built up a nice repository, if you will, of best practices and good ideas. So I can also share suggestions from an ALSD perspective, having lived it myself in various sports and in various markets. So that's the one thing I feel blessed about, is that I've had a diverse career across sports and across North America. And so I feel like I can talk turkey, if you will, with people in the business, because I've gone through a lot of the same things that they have now, albeit haven't experienced as much of the changes here recently in the last year, because I made the change to join ALSD. But I can't imagine that it's much different than what it was pre-pandemic.
Yeah, in some respects, no. And then in some respects, if you look at 30, 20, 10, 5, 2 years ago, it's crazy the advances and the change and the technology of like the pandemic advanced technology 10 years in 1 year.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I got a little taste of that in Ottawa with the Senators before I left Canada, and we were using artificial intelligence through our BI department, and it was fascinating. We had a AI admin named Chloe Roy, ROY, and people would show up at the game asking to meet her, thinking that she was a real person when she was warming the leads for us, so to speak, through artificial intelligence. So yeah, to your point, frictionless, transactions and going to more mobile on everything, right? And getting rid of we had a reverse ATM that we put in Ottawa to help people that had cash but didn't have a credit card, so that they could get a credit card and use it within the arena. So yeah, we saw quite a bit of change in a short period of time, but I haven't lived sort of coming out of that residual. Like with ALSD, we felt the pandemic, but we had our best show ever in New York City, as you know, because we value your helping us set that record for attendance, but also being able to spend some time with you at the USTA. But the same in London, right? We didn't see that was the best show that we had at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in October. So for us, we felt like yes, we suffered through the pandemic, but then ALSD came out like gangbusters, and so did ALSD International.
Is to go back to the AI, any relation to Patrick? Patrick Roy? No? Okay. We'll move on. I saw a it's a little Canadian hockey joke for the people out there.
He used to play in the off season. He used to play deck hockey with Guy Carbonneau to stay in shape. It wasn't as advanced back in the 80s in terms of some of the health and fitness programs that exist today. I mean, worlds apart, right? Talk about advancements. Incredible. But yeah, he used to play, and I was a I don't know how to skate. Go figure. I'm a hockey guy, but don't know how to skate. But I played competitive deck hockey for many, many years, and never got a chance to play against those guys, but did play against pros and Division I players that were doing the same thing. Just you can't glide because you're not on skates. You're in your sneakers, so you got to run. But yeah, the word was that at least two of the Canadians were playing in that. So Patrick Roy, I look at him as a Canadian rather than later in his career.
At the Avalanche. I played a bit of ball hockey. That's what we call it here in camp. I can rollerblade very well. Can't ice skate. You'd think it's the same. It's not. Almost like skiing and water skiing. And but yeah, it's amazing. It's becoming big. There's some. My friend Jackie is coaching the ball hockey and like national world championships, and the USA has a very, very good women's team. Jen Corsilli, I don't know if you know Jen Corsilli too.
I don't.
Yeah, she's always posting good jobs on LinkedIn. A great LinkedIn connection for anyone who's looking for LinkedIn, looking for work, knows someone looking for work. She's great on LinkedIn to connect with. She's part of the ball hockey too, but very good at just paying it forward and sharing jobs. Back to the ALSD. What is ALSD? I know you say we have it here, the Association of Luxury and Suite Directors. What is ALSD, and why should you join and come to Indianapolis and see us?
Well, Indianapolis is a special city for us. 33 years ago, that's where it started with 13 people, and started truly as luxury suite directors getting together to meet and exchange ideas and network and share best practices. So we're excited to be going back to Indianapolis. And what I love about that for ALSD is the whole community joins together to host you. So normally we'd go into a city and we'd meet with individual teams. Here we meet with everybody at once, including people from the airport, the hotel, the NCAA, and any of the host facilities, and also other sports teams and venues that won't be hosting, but that they just roll out the red carpet. So for us, it's a unique opportunity to go back to where it started. We've grown immensely since that, in terms of adding different tracks. So yes, it's premium seating at our core, but the common thread that goes through our organization and different tracks is fan experience. So we have a build and design group. We have a tech division that we added back. And this year, special edition, co-locating with IIFX to add health, safety, and security. And so we feel like it's all connected. So before, we used to get maybe the director and their right hand to come to the show for premium seating, and now you're getting multiple people across organizations to come, whether it's vendors or suppliers, but also on the team or venue side. So it's a great opportunity to network, great opportunities to see facilities that you may not take a special trip to go see. In our case, you're going to catch you caught 3 facilities in New York, and you'll catch at least three in Indianapolis. And so it gives people, an opportunity to compare and contrast. I mean, for me, when I went, I used to love and looked at things with a certain eye of what the Edmonton Oilers coined as make sure you do your R&D, rip off and duplicate. So I would look for ideas or different features or different designs that could potentially help me in future opportunities. In case in point, I did the Tampa Bay Lightning's arena back in the day, and got hired by the Chicago Bears to do Old Soldier Field down to Champaign on an interim basis at the University of Illinois, then back into New Soldier Field. And so by going to all these venues, you can pick and choose things that you like to then suggest to your construction team to say, I like that furniture, or I like that type of seating. And it paid real dividends for us in Chicago, because I had a broader view of what was out there nationally. And so for people that are considering ALSD versus, any other conference, you're talking about high propensity of sports teams that are there, 90% plus professional sports teams, but you also have college representation, and then you have all the other tracks. So it's one-stop shopping, like I said earlier, we think it's all connected, versus going to one show with one track that's very specific. Nothing against that, but we just feel like there's a better group of people that are represented when you can bring in multiple business units.
Yeah, I agree. Are they talking about another Soldier Field, like a new Soldier Field? Did I read that in the news somewhere?
I did see that yesterday. Interesting debate going on LinkedIn on whether that's a legitimate opportunity. And I left the Bears in 2004, so things have changed quite a bit. I still try to keep in touch with them, but I don't see the Chicago Bears personally staying in downtown, no matter what that $2.2 billion proposal is. I just don't see it. And there's some history there that people don't know that I'd rather not talk about. But
yeah,
it makes more sense, I think, for them to look at having their own building, their own. In today's world, you have an entire region, right? You have a district with hotels and restaurants. I think it makes more sense for them to look at the northern suburbs, particularly. And again, things could have changed in all these years, but when I was there, heavy concentration of Bears season ticket members in the northern suburbs of Chicago. And it created a real issue because it was optional for them to go to Champaign. And, over a third of them didn't go down to Champaign. There was no consequences with respect to priority on the new stadium, but when you're 170 miles door to door from facilities in a displaced year, you have to then add another 30 plus miles for the people that are in the northern suburbs going south. So, fascinating business, but I can't imagine that they would stay there. My suggestion to the NFL would be put in an AFC team in downtown Chicago. Chicago can support 2 NFL teams.
Oh, they got 2 Major League Baseball teams. Who's next? I guess they go back into California. It would be the next because they lost, right? If there is, that'll be interesting to see. We know the best. We were talking the other day, like the best kept secret or the worst kept secret, whatever you want to say it is, that there will be a Major League team moving to Vegas in the very near future. We'll see.
And it's worked out, right?
Yeah, no, I think Vegas is a no-brainer. It's just ironic the irony in just some of the business practices, and we didn't want Vegas because of gambling, and now gambling is a sponsor for the leagues. The secondary market for the sponsor for the leagues. Caesars is the naming rights on New Orleans arena. So now there's no good reason to not have every league in Vegas, and it's great. I've been to baseball and the football, hockey and the football there, and it's a great experience.
Yeah, it's amazing too where they can draw from for events. People coming from not only all over the United States but all over the world, right?
You're going to Indianapolis for this upcoming conference this year. Significance to the city and location, as you mentioned. How far out are you planned? Do you know where 24 is and 25, or do you kind of take it 1 year at a time?
No,
more than 1 year at a time.
Typically we would get out in front of it. We're currently vetting a city for 2024 and an alternate for 2024. Haven't talked about 2025 in the US or Canada for that matter. Obviously Canada would be a great market for us to go to, but everybody would need a passport to get across, which is challenging. But for ALSD International, we expect to announce 2023 in the next 10 days. We've already looked at where we'd like to be for 2024, so that's shaping up nicely. And we've had preliminary discussions for 2025, likely Manchester for 2023, back to London 2024, and possibly Stockholm for 2025. Although I will tell you, Matt, we've had great interest from, France and Italy, and Spain, Germany. So we've talked about possibly adding another conference over there. I'm convinced you could have a conference in the United Kingdom every single year, but we talked about adding a conference and have looked at Asia and even Australia. So that excites me. But from the U.S. standpoint, yeah, we should start to button some things down here next month for 2024.
As you're vetting and trying to figure out, rank the importance for me. Geography, hey, we were in the East last year. We're Central this year. Do we go West next year? Venues, right? What are the venues you're going to be able to highlight in the 3 nights that you send the attendees to? And then price, how much is it going to cost me to get there? Because New York City was fairly expensive, right?
Extremely expensive, as was London, but worth every dollar that we invested.
I mean, as an attendee. For me to get,
I got you. Yeah, with hotels and travel and everything else. We look at the venues, right? People want to see either new builds or renovations. And so that's the number one driving force on both sides, ALSD or ALSD International. Tottenham was the advanced building on that stadium lived up to every bit of it, because when we got there, people were thoroughly impressed. And so it was new shiny penny, right? So that's the big one. We are sensitive to travel and distribution of the shows within the geography, but much of it revolves around, renovations and or new builds. Pricing is an issue, right? Pricing
Yeah.
is an issue because we've had New York, Chicago, LA, not the best prices for attendees to go to, but at the same time, who doesn't want to see some of the new stuff? Vegas, perfect example.
I got to see SoFi a game firsthand. I actually went to Allegiant the day after. SoFi to me is the nicest arena I've ever been in, and I don't even know if it's close. I couldn't even, if I start thinking, you guys gave us a tour of the UBS, and not only is that a great facility, but the agenda, the whole night from everything was just, it blew me away, really. The food, the names on the thing, it was just top notch, and nothing against the other venues that we saw, but they weren't as good. And one of them, I won't name any names. I probably, if you go back in my think, I might not even go to it. I don't know if it was, worth my time. It's always worth your time because you meet people, but as an event, how much is that through the venue and through you? Is it full collaboration? Is it you giving ideas? Hey, what are they willing to do? What can they do? How does that come to be those nights?
Yeah, every one of them is unique, right? Because they have their own style and want to try different things, even right down to the tour. Sometimes people pre-station staff in areas, and other times they'll have a guided tour. But for us, I agree with you. That was my favorite all time, actually, because it was a magical evening. But people had to make that commitment, right? In New York, we had to bus people to the venues, and in New York with traffic. And I tracked it for literally weeks on the same days at the same times just to see what it was like. And we were looking at an hour each way.
Yeah, mine wasn't bad. I know the last bus caught a little bit, but I think we caught
so
about
it was an investment of time, right, to be able to go out there. But the people that didn't make it the next day,
they were not happy.
They were hanging their heads because they heard the buzz from so many people. And
I made the mistake of eating too much at the beginning because I didn't know what else was there. And then I got to this other room with the big chicken guys, and I was like, oh my God, I wish I didn't eat as much in the room before.
I did the same as you. I ate early and often, and then got towards the end and was blown away. And I'm like, I just can't do it. And people were getting on the bus, like busting at the seams, and said, I can't believe I ate so much. And it was just a magical function, right? Yeah. But they're all different because each host wants to do their own thing, right? Which is great. That's what I like about it. There's variety. We had a equally as good an event the night before, and they just had a different approach and how they handled it, and it worked well. And so in Indianapolis, we have those same discussions. The difference is, we can get a couple buses and just run a loop, if you will.
Yeah, they're all right there.
Indianapolis is so easy to walk around and stuff. So by definition, it'll be less expensive for us in terms of even just buses, but great hotels, great walking city, and a lot of fun things to do. I mean, I'm even contemplating taking my family, and we started to see that in New York, where people are now coming to the conference, but also weaving in a nice vacation. And so with Indianapolis, they have so many things to do. So I can go by conference by day, and they can do their thing and then meet up later in the evening. But that's what I love about it. It's unique. We don't go to the same place over and over and over again. We keep moving it. And again, I mean, for me, I wouldn't have taken a lot of those trips to certain buildings had I not gone to the ALSD conference. So I like that touch.
Yeah, my brother lived in Carmel. He worked for Lilly Corporate. So he went to all of these events, took his kids to all of the arenas. I've only been to Hinkle, which is not part of the trip, but that's a beauty. It's right there. I would advise anyone who's in the area to go take a look at it while we're that close. Famous arena where Butler plays and Hoosiers and all that history. Great.
There's
stuff.
Way more there than people think in terms of things to do. Yeah.
My wife's never been to Chicago. We might go to Chicago before, and then I'll head down to Indy. So maybe she'll come over for this trip. It's Let's talk about. Go ahead.
Sorry, it's amazing how easy. That's one thing we didn't realize until we started to dive into it. But it's amazing how easy it is to drive to Indianapolis from so many places. I was looking at just colleges and universities within like 150 miles of Indianapolis, several hundred.
Yeah, you
That
told
are
me
there,
that.
and you're like, wow, like that's incredible. But Chicago's not that far. I mean, we have clients in Southern Ontario that will drive to the show. They don't even have to fly. Although the airport's been terrific every time we go in, and we scout and visit 2 or 3 times before the show, and so we're looking at every little angle of the fan experience, if you will. What can we do to improve it?
You're talking about the fan experience, attendee experience. I want to talk about the actual trade show. We did the badges for you guys for this last one, and one of the important things that you guys said was, and you guys were like hammering it to me, we need the names to be big, and I love it, because so many times it's so hard to read someone's name, and sometimes that's by design. People don't want you to read their name; they have it on backwards. Or actually, we did it on both sides with the same thing, so there was no hiding it. How do you combat people who go to a conference to meet people, and there's people who've been to 20 of them, 10 of them, and they don't want to be bothered, and they put their thing there and they don't show up to events? I mean, what do you do, or do you do anything to try and sort of battle that and make it a better experience for the people who might be their first timers? I know you guys had the first timer session. That was really helpful. What else do you guys do to sort of get people to interact with each other?
We will use our relationships over many, many decades, right, to be able to encourage that networking. So you could come to us and say, hey, these are the 5 companies that I'd like to meet. And we'll often, if you don't do it through the trade show, or if you don't do it through other opportunities, we do what I would call speed dating, like where you can specifically request to meet with people, and then we'll go ask them to do it during certain time frames. But if you're not going to do it at a trade show, or you're not going to do it, through other opportunities, often it's just, picking up the phone or emailing someone, or actually on site. I did a lot of introductions on site for people that are like, hey, can you tell me who this person is? Or I've never met them. Can you introduce me to that person? So our whole staff does it, right? From our founder, to me, to Amanda, right on down to the interns. We'll do that to try to encourage that. Our saying is business is a contact sport, right? You want to try to make those connections. So, but to each his own. If people would, sometimes people will walk away from the show to go take a call, or to finish a project, or what have you. And we saw that even in London, and had a space for people to be able to get away and do that when they had to. I mean, how schedules can be, Matt, right? You're juggling stuff left and right, but we try to use our relationships to make those connections beyond just the natural ability to do it. And one of the things that's nice about the hotel is typically the hotel is self-containing of the whole conference. In Indianapolis, we're expecting such a large crowd that we've actually secured four different hotels, but they're all connected or a very short walk to be able to have people, concentrated in a certain area. But for me, I did a lot of, as an attendee, I did a lot of networking during the conference. But for me, the tours and the receptions during the evening were the ones that were most productive for me, because they're free flowing, and you can be walking with people in a group, but then when you get to the reception, you can mix and mingle. So it's
by chance, but it's interesting how sometimes you just sit down at a table, and there could be someone you've reached out to and talked to by luck, or someone that really could be good for you. You could walk around the whole day and not find someone, and then just by luck on that. I want to touch on something you said. The staff and the interns from this past year, or I guess it was last year already, in New York City, as good as I've ever encountered. I've been to a lot of a lot of conferences, and especially the interns. They were very helpful and around. You had a lot of them, so that helped. But they were great.
We appreciate that, Matt, because we're excited. We have a group of interns that do this year after year after year. Even after they graduate college, they'll still come back and volunteer as an intern to be a part of it. There are some that have 4 or 5, conferences under the belt, and the same in Europe. We've had multiple staff that have been there 2, 3, 4 years. They love it, and they become part of the ALSD family to the point where people recognize them year after year. And yes, they network too, right? Because they're interns and they're looking to get into the business, but they're not over the top, and they're not harassing people because they're working, right? But they do get a chance to cut loose and enjoy the tour and the receptions during the evenings. But we're blessed to keep having some of the same ones come back over and over again, because it helps bring that group of interns along. And if we didn't have them, I'm not sure logistically we could pull it off. Maybe Indianapolis being the exception, because they have a volunteer crew that, again, they just they know how to roll out the red carpet. And so we might not need as many to do what we do, but it's great to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that we asked that specifically in a post survey to the event, but we were very pleased with the responses that we got across the board. Again, I looking back at 2022, I'm like, we had two great venues, great tours and cities, and it was worth the time and investment to pull that off. More than anything, we're back, right? We're back. People want to go to in-person conferences and again, network. That business is a contact sport type attitude.
I've been to a lot of conferences, trade shows over the years, and it was in a job where I would go to the same one every year, actually twice a year in different locations for 6 or 7 years. And one of the complaints I have is that it's a lot of the same information over and over again, and then there's a lot of pay to play. That's obviously an issue. I think there's so many good ideas and people that don't get to speak, that it might be better to do that, even if it means you're getting less sponsored things. Is that something that you guys are trying to combat? Or look, there's no shame in sponsorship, people. It's what happens. But for me, sometimes it's a little too obvious when something's sponsored and it's more of a pitch than informational.
Yeah, that's a great point, and one that we're sensitive to. And two things that we try to do to combat that is, the first is really lean on our advisors, our board of advisors, to dictate the agenda, because they have a good pulse of what's topical out there right now. And the second is to go beyond the conferences, to become a year-round organization where your benefits are year-round. So you're getting access to webinars of people that may not have been a panelist, but still have compelling content that they can share and people can learn from. And so we're working diligently on trying to expand it into a 12-month benefit package for members and even non-members that come to the show. I mean, they're still, whether they want to be a member or not, they're still a valued member of our ALSD family. And so, we wouldn't prohibit somebody from, joining a webinar or sharing a case study because they don't sponsor or exhibit or are a delegate or attendee for a show. But yeah, we want to be sensitive to that with respect to hearing a diverse crew of voices, right? You don't want to just keep fishing in the same pond. But there are some great sponsors that I think bring compelling content year after year, particularly again, by example, Hunden will do a nice study on all the upcoming or ongoing stadiums and venues that are being constructed or renovated. And when I was in London, the whole 350 people that are sitting in that room are captivated to the screen and seeing building after building after building going, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Like stuff that you just wouldn't come across or wouldn't see. But when you see it collectively, you're like, wow, this is incredible. And everybody is taking, ideas from other conferences and other organizations and other venues to try to be bigger and better or new and improved, whatever you want.
Best practices sharing. I mean, that's a big thing that happens at your conference and a number of other ones where it's, we're not competing with each other in a sense.
Right.
Like I'm competing with some of the people who are there, but teams, they're not really competing. There's got to be a lot of collaboration and copycat. Sure, I guess it's the greatest form of flattery in a way, right? That's what they say. But that's what you want. You want to know what's work. I used to think that everyone wanted to be the first. That only happens in news reporting, whether it's true or not. And people want to be the second. They want to let the first person test it out, and see what happens. So, I think that there's some truth to that about copying and seeing what works. And for the most part, no one's going to care.
No question. And, I've always valued that about ALSD, even before I joined, is they have established a league day many, many, many years ago. And league day, meaning all the leagues have separate meetings in their own rooms and then come back in to join the greater group. And I love that because, that's like going to a league meeting. And I used to run them for the NHL when I worked at the league. I would run them at ALSD. I'd run the NHL meetings, and I'd lean on our advisors for content. But you had a self-contained room within the NFL or an NBA or MLB, MLS, NHL, and so they are able to share those best practices with each other face to face. Again, and it's just a nice extra touch as you're going to a great, larger conference, that you're able to do that. We're toying with the idea of maybe expanding that a little bit or tweaking that a little bit, because we have received some feedback where teams want to, instead of being completely independent, NHL, NFL, that they want to have some sort of combined group discussion. And it might be on one topic, right? It might be on couple topics, but so we're constantly looking at ways based on the feedback that we get on how can we improve the experience for attendees, exhibitors, sponsors.
Well, if you get them all in the room, I'll be happy to be on a fan experience panel.
There you go.
But I think and what I mean, I think that I can have one of the things that I think I provide that I know I can do because I've done it is to sit on a panel and not use the word ticket time machine once and not talk about anything we do once and still give value to the crowd, but still walk away that they know, hey, ticket time machine, let me go see what they do. And I think sometimes people get so caught up in trying to pitch their thing that they don't understand. If you sit up there and speak intelligently about it, give value in what you're saying, that people will want to talk to you and they'll want to hear what you do more. Also, it doesn't hurt that I'm probably going to be wearing something that says ticket time machine, so you don't need to do that. So I think that's something that I think people on panels and in sessions can do better at. Let's focus on the value and don't have to say, hey, well, we did this and we did that. Because what worked, it won't always work. Whatever worked for them won't always work for you.
Correct.
But if you can give that value, I think that's something that trade show panelists and sessions, I think people can do better with that. That's just my opinion in sitting through some of these.
I've noticed the moderator plays a key role because they can be equally as impactful in terms of controlling the conversation and weaving in even some of their experience without turning into an infomercial, Yeah. So some of the moderators just blew me away in New York and London because it was just so free flowing and so nice. And then even the Q&As, to be able to have people ask some questions. Often it feels accelerated in terms of the day goes by. Next thing you know, 10 hours has gone by, and the night is over, and you're like, what happened? Like, where did it go? But what I like is the variety, right? So you don't have to stay in the same track. You can cross over.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is important, because I don't want to invest my time on a topic maybe that has nothing to do with my role. If there's more compelling sessions that could be more impactful for me.
That's a good point, because when you have conferences, and you guys are similar to other conferences, but not in the sense that the same organizations, teams, leagues are going to be there, but maybe not the same people. And in this day and age, in the economy, they have to decide, hey, how many people are we going to send? Who are we going to send? So they do have to sort of collect information in a way, and it's the same every conference. Yours is not different than some of the others, in the sense that some people are there and they don't care. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to help you get to the right person. And then others really do want to gather information, bring it back, and say, you know what? I talked to this person. It's not my department, but I think you should talk to them. And so that's sort of, a challenge that I think you guys have is, if we can't go to all of these, why am I going to come to yours? And so you've talked a little bit about some of the value in the conference, and why they should send people.
Yeah. And I think, having done this with teammates when I work for a team, there is a dynamic there where you're seeing your teammates outside of the office in the normal day-to-day grind, and you're interfacing with them. And I always try to balance it, right? I didn't want to stay in a clique at the risk of not, meeting new people and branching out. But at the same time, it's great when you can see your teammate in a different light and have that those touch points. It gives you a new perspective. I always used to come back from some of these conferences saying, wow, I have a new appreciation for, this teammate, because I saw them in a different setting and different personality, got to learn more about them personally. It's a different dynamic when you can bring more of your teammates to a conference. And what we used to do at the Coyotes is just take the agenda and divide and conquer, right? Who's covering this, who's covering that, and we'd go right down. And sometimes you'd be sitting in the same session with somebody, and other times you'd be split, but and then recap it when we got back, right? We'd always do notes and share our perspective. And you saw the diverse opinions within your group. When you go by yourself to one conference and there's 4 different tracks, how do you possibly cover everything? Particularly like even this new track with health, safety, and security. To me, I sit on a monthly call with IIFX, and it's just fascinating to hear everything that venues and teams are facing now with regards to safety and security, and not so much health as it was before, but still factored in. But very informative.
It needs to get done, and it's not generating revenue, but you need to know what's going on, and be, a bad incident could be catastrophic.
For sure.
Yeah. You guys had Tiki Barber as the keynote in New York City. He did a great job. Who do you have the keynote for Indy? Is there a Indy personality, athlete person that you would love to have if you could? I mean, obviously Peyton Manning, I don't think he lives there, but
we've been working through that group, welcome group, on a number of names. When you think about it, Penske, Bird,
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think Larry would be. I'm going to ask. I have Bob Ryan on the show Thursday. I don't think Larry Bird would be a great keynote guy. I'd love to see him, love to hear him, love to meet him. I can't imagine he's putting together. Tiki was great. I know Peyton would be great. For my money, Peyton's the best acting athlete of our time.
Yeah, no, there's no shortage of choices there. And we look for multiple ones too, not necessarily keynote. What I loved about the Tiki Barber one, it was a fireside chat, right? It was very informal, and he opened up. he actually slipped me. I was responsible for meeting him downstairs and getting him on a specific elevator and getting him up. And I went back to security and said, I haven't seen him. They said, oh, he came through a different door and made his way up. He's upstairs already. So I went and saw him and introduced myself. And I said, Tiki, this is why you made it to the NFL as a running back and why I failed to go past high school as a safety. Because you ducked me pretty easily there. And so we actually had we have a common friend. So we had a nice chat. But, it's amazing how many, you've seen a lot of personalities over your time, but how down to earth they are, and I think for me, I was blessed because I've been around some great ones. I mean, Gordie Howe, started in college. Jack Parker's fantastic college hockey coach, and then Gordie Howe and Emil the Cap Francis. And then I look, I go to the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm working with Tony and Phil Esposito, and then, on to Houston with Barkley, Olajuwon, Drexler. And if that wasn't enough, then on the women's side, which was fantastic, the inaugural season of WNBA, you got Cooper, you got Thompson. Swoops came in the second year, so I got to see her. The late Kim Pratt. So, when you look at all these great personalities that are out there, we're looking for a keynote, yes, but we also look to see how we can incorporate people into the rest of the show too.
I had small interaction with Sean Alexander at the Fatherhood Festival at the Hall of Fame last year. Nicest guy I've ever met in my life for, someone who's as famous and well known as he is. Just the interaction I had with him and me watching him with others, man, it was such a pleasure to see, because there are people who come, and they go for a paycheck and they don't care. And it's disappointing, especially if you liked that person, or, it's no different than hearing them do some bad stuff in the news. And you're like, that's disappointing, but it's great when they can really interact. And it's tough, regardless how nice you are. It's tough to be bombarded by, and I'm not talking from experience, but it's tough to be bombarded by hundreds of people who want to talk to you and take a picture and get an autograph. Doesn't matter how nice you are. It's going to weigh on you in some form or fashion sometimes. And so, if you can really just shine through that without, showing any type of unhappiness or uncomfortability, whatever. That's probably not a word, but it really is a pleasure to see.
Yeah, it's funny you say Sean Alexander, because Ron Francis was the guy for me for many, many years. When I broke in with the Whalers, he just did everything and anything under the sun. Just consummate professional, so nice and everything. But then I get to Arizona and I meet Shane Doan. If I were to do a Mount Rushmore, he'd be my number one guy. Not necessarily for what he's done, on the ice, as much as what he's done off the ice for the community. And Larry Fitzgerald was the same way for the Cardinals. Like, we bump into him at different functions. Never said no. Like, they just.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Go. And I mean, even if the event ended, like, Shane Doan used to have a line of people waiting to get autographs. And then, the rest of the team is starting to leave because the event's over. He stayed until the last person got their autograph every single time. And I'm looking at that saying, it's got to be difficult, right? To your point, because you're getting pulled in all these different directions, but consistently the best I've ever witnessed in 35 plus years, and still doing it, right? Even though he's not in an official capacity, still there, even outside of sports. I mean, I was at a symphony with my wife and my daughter, and she saw Shane Doan and wanted to talk to him because he was always at the ice den. She had figure skating lessons, and Shane knew Maddie's coach. And here he is in a tuxedo, right, in this beautiful black tie event, and my daughter goes over there to talk to him. He's bending down, shaking her hand, chit-chatting with him. Like, what could they possibly be talking about, And I find out afterward, but that tells you what that person's like, his DNA, second to none, And we try to get, people that are popular, but also people like Tiki interacted with our members and our attendees. He stayed longer than he was obligated to stay. He very personable, right? It's loved his transparency and openness. because it's not just I mean, in his case, he had both the business and the sports tie-in, right? You don't always get that with people that you select for those kind of speaking roles. But yeah, we'll look at that. We like a local flavor to it.
I did a Mount Rushmore. I showed you it's right there. I was telling you, I love fan art, and my Mount Rushmore has Elway and Dale Ellis. Those are my personal favorites. Now, you can make an argument Elway's, I don't know if he's the greatest quarterback of all time, but he's up there. Some people can argue, maybe. I have Bo Jackson up there because it's baseball and football, and then I have Griffey just because I love Griffey and that swing. I wanted it up there. I regret not putting Wayne Gretzky on my thing. I think he could be the greatest athlete of all time. I started looking at his records. They're never going to be broken. And if you start to look at the records that he has, the goals in a season and the points, like there's no one in the top 20 from 2000 and beyond. Like nobody. It's crazy how far away any of these people are from touching any of his records.
This is why they call him the Great One, right?
Yeah.
So, which Griffey did you have? Dad or Junior?
Junior. I got the Junior, the swing with the Mariners. And I don't know why he's not like my favorite, but I do like him a lot. At Bo, I was a Royals fan, and just he mesmerized. I mean, you got at Bo the opportunity to have a Mount Rushmore with he's half Royals and half. The picture with him half Royals and half Raiders. It's just such an awesome. I don't know, but I would like to put Gretzky on there. Who would you put on your Mount Rushmore? Let's say your favorites.
In terms of mixture, I don't know. You can put the Big Red Machine on there by themselves, right? I was a huge Johnny Bench, Joe Morgan, Dave Concepcion fan. I'm a diehard Reds fan. Got to see him win it in 1990. Obviously saw him take the 75 World Series against the Red Sox in the 76. I grew up in New England, so got to see that.
Will Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame in our lifetime?
I don't think so.
No,
I really don't.
It's a shame, right?
But I don't know. That's a tough one, Matt, on Mount Rushmore, because I sort of look at it sort of by sport. Like, would I put in there hockey? My childhood idol was Leroy Selmon. I was all the way with Tampa Bay and the Buccaneers, and he had a little 63 shirt. But I grew up Bruins, Reds, Celtics, and then I grabbed the Bucks in '76. I didn't have a team other maybe the Steelers, I guess, because sadly to see the Franco Harris news. But I was joking with my dad days before that how he threw my older brother and myself out of the house after that immaculate reception because we were Steelers fans and he was a Raiders fan, and he's like, "Go outside and play." He was so angry that they lost that game. But I would go through Pittsburgh Airport, take a photo of the statue, send it to him just to give him a hard time. But I don't know. I'd have to give that some more thought in terms of Gretzky would definitely be there. He was amazing. He saw stuff 3 chapters ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know how to skate, but I did play the game, and I had great tutors in terms of Jack Parker and Ben Smith at BU, breaking down the tape and teaching me the strategy of hockey, ice hockey. But I'd always wonder, like, why would 9 guys go to this point, and Wayne Gretzky would go to that point?
That's his famous quote, right?
And get the puck. Like that's
a famous quote. We misquote all the time, but it's something about going where the puck is going to be, not where it's headed.
Yeah, he just saw things in slow motion. But what I love, he brings, when you hear him more and more now, because he's even Winter Classic, I saw him on the broadcast. He also admits that it's tough to compare the different athletes over different periods of time, right? Because I look at Gordie.
Hockey is the closest, I would think. Hockey than the size, the rules. There's not. It hasn't changed as much as say football and basketball and even baseball.
And your Mount Rushmore may be different than mine. Is I would tend to put people up there that not necessarily just on talent alone or statistics. Like to me, Gordie Howe is one of the nicest people I've ever interfaced with. He was incredible. We used to have lunch with him 4 times a week in Hartford at a little table with the GM, Emil Francis, and we would just say, "What was your rookie year like?" or "What story?" Sometimes you could laugh, and sometimes you're crying. But the person, right, is this sort of the same with Shane Doan. Wayne Gretzky, I'm thoroughly impressed with what he's done. Bobby Orr was an idol of mine back in the day because he
can't go wrong with any of them. Is Stanley Cup hockey the best postseason around?
Oh yeah,
nothing like it when it's tied, right? You're in overtime.
Exactly, that's where I was going. I had a NFL team executive tell me one time, "There's nothing more exciting than overtime playoff hockey."
Overtime playoff hockey, there's nothing like it. And I'm a hockey fan, but not anywhere near what we, like.
I even love this 3-on-3 overtime, Matt. I liked it. Even in college, you see it. It's exciting because there's so much space. The World Juniors was incredible.
Here's our playoff ticket that we did for the Panthers last year when they were the number one seed. They're making a comeback this year. You're having a great run here. Hopefully, get to where they need to go and move forward.
Did you, as a Florida fan, did you get a chance to watch the game last night?
The
national championship.
I watched it for a little bit, and then I have a bet. I was in Vegas not too long ago, and I threw money down on TCU to win it all. But I was disappointed with that. Real quick, I met you at the ALSD. Then I sent a message that I was coming out to Arizona and do a networking thing, and you showed up at the network. And then as we're talking there, we realized we were both going to be at this football game, high school championship game on Saturday. It's really funny how, like, if I maybe didn't talk to you there or I didn't post that thing, we would have been in the same exact places, but not meet. So there's, it's like opportunity meets effort or chance, whatever that luck is and all of this. So the importance of networking and just showing up and being responsive, it's so important. And that's really what your community and conference are about, right?
No question. Will we see you for Super Bowl?
I'll be out there for Super Bowl. We're doing stuff with the Ditka Jaws party, and we have some other events that we're hoping to be a part of. But I'll be there the whole week and excited. I went to the Fanatics party when it was in Miami, but this is my first Super Bowl week where I'm out at the events and just hanging around. And
the whole week is just one huge party across the valley because you've got the Super Bowl, you've got Waste Management open.
Yeah.
For people that haven't been out here at this time of year, it's fantastic, right? It's just, and for me, we're spoiled because when you're based here, so many people come visit that you're able to catch a coffee or a beverage or, catch up with them. So I'm constantly taking appointments here in Arizona as people, even over the holidays when people came with their families and they wanted to sneak away for a quick cup of coffee and catch up. It's like, it really is nice to have two significant major events right here where so many people will come visit.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun weekend. I think it'll be a productive weekend or week. So I'm really looking forward to that. We're gonna let you out of the Wolff Den in the same fashion we let everyone out with. You can pick one person in the world to spend a day with, 24 hours, but they have to be alive and you can't be related to them. Who would you choose, and where, and what would you guys do?
Wow, that is a great question. The first person that came to mind for me is Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah, she's been picked before.
Yeah,
great choice. What is it you think you guys would do or talk about?
Everything and anything. Just pick her brain, have lunch. I would love to pick her brain. Just very compelling story and tycoon, right?
With or without Stedman?
Without, just 101. No, he can come along. I would. I've been fortunate enough to meet presidents, former presidents, and other personalities throughout my career. But for someone like her, I'm just fascinated by her journey and where she's been. And
I agree.
Maybe because of my Chicago ties.
That doesn't hurt, right?
I lived there for 6.5 years too, but
she's on my list, but I have people that are higher. But she's on the list of people that would be really, if you start to go down that list, she's up there, and she's been mentioned before. So great choice. Really appreciate your time here today. It was great to see you in person twice when I was in Arizona. I anticipate I'll see you at some point in Arizona for Super Bowl week. Check out ALSD.org, right?
ALSD.com.
.com. I have it here. It scrolled as it's going. I was like, is it d.com.org? Association of Luxury and Suite Directors, ALSD.com. The conference is going to be in Indianapolis in July. Check out the website. Reach out to Jeff if you have any questions, if you want to get involved with yourself or your organization. It was a great event. I look forward to being there again. And stay tuned. Thursday, we have Bob Ryan of the Boston Globe and ESPN, PTI, and Around the Horn. Probably know him if you're a Boston fan or if you're just a sports fan in general. Looking forward to that conversation. But great having you here. And it's exciting times with what you're doing. And looking forward to see what's next and what goes down in Indianapolis in July.
Thanks, Matt. See you.